Professor Takashi, are you going to introduce the second speaker? Okay, sure. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so shall we go to the next presentation? So I'd like to introduce Dr. Anirban Chowdhury. So Dr. Anirban Chowdhury is an author of a book titled Neurodesign and Neuromarketing Startup Guide. He is a trainer of design thinking and innovation and data analytics. He is a practitioner of value-based design education, human factors, and affective design. He's serving as faculty and head of UX and interaction design and assistant dean of research and development, School of Design, University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, Dehradun, since 2017. He was worked out for MIT Institute of Design, Pune, from 2015 to 2017 as an assistant professor of user experience design. He is an alumnus of the University of Calcutta. He was recently awarded the Springer Young Researcher Award 2015, given by the Indian Society of Ergonomics for his research work in the area of cognitive ergonomics and user experience design. So, thanks, Anirban. So, screen is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Takashi, to introduce about myself and my career. So let me share my screen and directly go to the presentation as time is limited. So am I audible to everybody?
Yes.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay,
yes, sir.
great. So today I'm going to talk about the AI and affective interface design and its future directions. So in my presentation, I am going to cover these topics: brief history about AI and robotics, AI as a tool, human-centric affective design, affective interfaces, case examples, then AI-based affective interfaces, usability and user experience aspects of affective interface design, and future scopes. So let's start with the history of AI and robotics. So if we look at the history on AI and robotics, actually the AI practice has been started from in the field of robotics and in early 1950s. And the first robot that has some intelligence, which is designed by the George C. Dibble. So you can see how our robots has been changed over a period of the time in this figure, which is presented here. So we also have some advanced robots, which is not mentioned here. I will introduce about that as well very soon. So, and if we talk about the artificial intelligence, it actually pioneered by the scientist Alan Turing, and he first showed us the way how to measure the intelligence of artificial objects. So, and also degree of artificiality is talked about in the great book by Herbert A. Simon, who is also a Nobel laureate in the field of design and decision science. Though there is no direct Nobel Prize in the area of design, he got the Nobel Prize in economics So design and economics is very interrelated to each other. So this person, Professor Sir Herbert A. Simon, first introduced about um, the degree of artificiality in his great book, Sciences of Artificial. And then in 1979, the society, which is known as the Association for Advancement of Artificial Intelligence, has been established by Alan Turing and his followers. Then obviously people started talking about the human-centric robotics by means of anthropomorphism. So anthropomorphism is basically defined as the humanness, attribution of humanness in non-human objects. So you can see the development of the famous robot with human-centric design and human-centric behavior. So Asimov has multiple models over a period of time, and this is the latest one you can see, but still it is not much expressive, not with facial expressions and all. Then people started thinking about how to inbuild the affective qualities of human being into robots. So different experiments has been done by various researchers with various means. So you can see Kismet with this robot name is called Kismet. This is the robot which has the facial expression. So scientists have successfully established and tried to convey 6 different facial expressions in this robot. Some other scientists tried with facial, not the direct facial expressions, or expression of emotional value in indirect manner, as in case of Pepper. Some other group of researchers tried to establish and express affective responses through use of LED lights. And now we have the most advanced AI-based robot. Its name is Sofia. So a few years back, Sofia visited to Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and at that time, sari, which is the traditional cloth of India for women, it is also worn by the Sofia, as you can see here in this image. So many researchers also tried to unfold an interesting phenomena which is called uncanny valley. And so uncanny valley actually trying to express the likability with increasing the expression of humanness. So you can see here how mechanical look to human look is differing and how the likability is depending on this look. So you can see we have reached the uncanny valley here, where people are started disliking about the robotic look, and now people are started liking about more humanness in robot. So they want exact expression like human, exact look like human being. So success of Sofia is actually depending on likability, and success of Sofia is depending on this phenomena called uncanny valley, as you can see here. So people people are liking exactly human-like robots. So AI and artificial intelligence thus can be defined as the human-like intelligence in non-human objects. So it not only robot, it can be anything that has human-like intelligence. So as a tool, AI enables us for quick recognition of external environment or surrounding environment. AI can help us to build human-like interactions in non-human object. AI can enable us to go for human-like behavior implementation, human-like behavior tracking, and so on and so forth. And obviously, the expression of emotional responses. So AI practice is highly interdisciplinary in nature. So people are more talking about AI in various fields. Nowadays, it is a buzzword, but AI practice takes inputs from various fields like cognitive science and human factors engineering, data sciences and statistics, computer science, design, and human anthropology. So these are the fields of studies where from um, scientists are taking inputs, theoretical inputs for building more intelligent, more advanced AI-based systems. So now let me little bit talk about the human-centric affective design before going into the practices that we do in our laboratory. So human-centric affective design has been started during 1980s. So first proposed and practiced by Professor Don Norman, and we get inputs for his great book, Emotional Product Design for Affective Design Purposes. And another contributor in the field of affective design is Rosalind W. Picard. She generally work in the field of affective computing. She's from MIT Media Lab. Many affective systems has been proposed and designed by Rosalind Picard. And obviously our president, chair of IEA Affective Design Group, Professor Rosemary Shiva, she also contributed in this field a lot. So design elements such as color, form, texture, etc. has direct influence in affective responses, hence in affective design. So other medias like sounds, visuals, and other digital medium also has influence for affective responses. So all these elements of design and media generally we use for affective interface design. So affective interface design is not only limited to the human-computer interfaces, but also in various product. In fact, right now we are into intelligent and effective environment design. People are talking about empathy-based interfaces, and obviously the user experience and other affective interfaces. So this model actually expressing how cognitive and affective system works. So it starts with the individual needs. So there are visceral needs, for example, how aesthetic look a product or interface have. Behavioral needs, what sort of activity we are doing in media scenarios. Reflective needs, like achievement, etc. So perception and actually help us for cognitive evaluation in various contexts of individual need. Individual needs are also related to uh, the belief system of any person, any user, and their attitude and intention. And belief, attitude, and intention, these are actually influencing the affective quality evaluation into the interface or other product. And based on both cognitive and affective evaluation, affective responses happen. So this is another interesting theory in the field of uh, affective response evaluation and recording. It's the circumplex model of affect, which is established by Russell and their colleague. So composition, according to this circumplex model, the composition of emotion is based on two factors. One is arousal, another is pleasure. So each and every emotions presented in this field are composed of different values of arousal and pleasure. So for example, happiness is composed of high, uh, the medium arousal, but high pleasantness. Whereas if you see sad is unpleasant kind of response with comparatively low medium arousal. So thus different other emotions are also composed of and explained through these two factors. So in the field of affective design, so Plutchik's model, Plutchik's wheel of emotion is also very famous. As you can see here, each and every emotion, its source and its fate, all these are represented in this particular wheel. So for example, the anger started from the rage and it ends in annoyance. So like this way, all the emotions are mapped in this wheel. So in Indian context, we have studied Navarasha theory of affective design. So the concept of Navarasha came from performing arts, the dance. So in case of dance, Indian classical dance, artists generally expresses different sort of emotions through facial expressions and also through different bodily gestures. So facial expression is very common across various dance forms, but in Indian classical dance form, body language, body gesture is also helping to express various sort of emotion. So now the question is, can we use this concept and theory and come up with the interface which is actually detecting facial expression and helping to learn different dance gesture. So there are such possibilities. So we have different tools to measure the affective responses, as you can see here: self-assessment mannequin, semantic differential scale. We have various biometric systems like EMG, electromyography, EEG, electroencephalography, GSR, galvanic skin response. These instruments, eye tracking device, we have facial recognition software. All these instruments are helping us to measure different affective responses against various design. So as in this example, we can see, so memes were designed for advertisement of a life insurance company, and then it is mapped, the expression of different affective values has been mapped through semantic differential scale and SAM, the self-assessment mannequin, and plotted in a form of the circumplex model, where we can see this particular advertisement, which is inspired from an Indian film called Dehradun, is associated with the expression happiness, whereas the other meme, which is inspired from another Indian film called Three Idiots, is associated with the affective value afraidness. But when we asked the target audience to know which advertisement is more suitable for the life insurance company advertisement, that time they have mentioned that this particular advertisement, which is associated with afraidness, is more suitable for such advertisement for life insurance. So afraidness is something which actually helps you to take life insurance policies. If you are afraid, then you are going to have either life insurance or some health insurance. In fact, in a report by the Statista.com, recently, due to the COVID scenario, people are so afraid they purchased many health insurances in this COVID scenario due to fear of the COVID-19, and the sales and marketing report supports that fact. So human-centric affective design case example. In this example, we can see the phenomena of uncanny valley and its relationship with the pupil and dilation, means the size of people is varying with different sorts of emotion recognition. So can we also use the pupil dilatation as a important parameter and devise some interfaces? So there are possibilities. Now let us see what is happening in the area of affective interface design. So in the literature, we found that the emotion and empathy has important role in acceptance of user interfaces, and also it's the key for instruction media. So it is found in a study that elderly are more empathetic to elderly, and hence a training interface has been designed where the instructor is kept as elderly lady uh, who is very empathetic to the target users who are also elderly, and she successfully able to train the, the various cooking styles through the virtual interface. So in our lab, recently we tried with the affective interface design for elderly in the context of microwave interface. So we designed emoticon-based interface, which actually encourages elderly people to use microwave. In Indian context, what happens? Many elderly people fear to use microwave, and they don't hardly access. Few but menus and options from the list. So we tried with such interfaces, as you can see here, and found such interfaces are interesting to elderly people, and they are willing to use such interface in future. So they like the embedded emotional value in the interface, what we tried to implement through various emoticons. So instructions were also liked by the elderly people. So one of my PhD student currently working on empathy. So she's trying to build the virtual simulation-based interface to train Indian nursing students. So what happens in India, in many hospitals, there are less nurses as compared to number of patients. So many nurses are highly overloaded with their work. So at that time, they are sometimes misbehaving with the patients. They are sometimes misbehaving with the patient party, and also sometimes they feel depressed. So through this kind of interface, we are trying to build empathy among these nurses and nursing students so that they can serve better in Indian scenario. So now let me talk about some AI-based affective interfaces, what we practiced in our laboratory. So for emotion recognition, there are various algorithms present for detection of emotions. So it is now possible to detect gender as well as the affective response using image processing. So, but there was no such expression of no such possibilities for measuring the quantity of affective responses initially. So we tried with that, and we are now able to measure the type of particular affective response. For example, here you can see the smile. So somebody can have mild smile, somebody have moderate, somebody maybe they are blessed with their smile. So this kind of things can be measured from the mapping of their lips of target audience. So based on that, we are successfully able to design interface where we can differentiate the different kinds of smile. So in our laboratory, we are also working on voice user interfaces. So generally, voice user interfaces are most common and famous in the, as Amazon Echo Dot, Amazon Alexa, etc. So the system works like this way. If we give the voice command, voice user interface generates a audio file and it goes to the cloud, and the image file processing happens, which is called intent processing, and then after processing it sends up again voice signals through the voice user interfaces to the user as a voice response. So so affective responses can also be detected from the voices, as we know from the literature. So now, recently we tried to capture different guttural sounds, and tried to measure the affective responses out of that. So first we develop a new kind of voice user interface modality from guttural sounds, which we called it as hypnotic computer interface. So principle of the hypnotic interface is like that. So what do you think? So what you can put into the word? It is the principle of normal interface. But in case of the guttural voice user interfaces, what you think sometimes you don't want to convey in terms of word. Rather, you want to maintain some secrecy. So still computer is able to recognize that, and you can interact with the computer. So that's the idea of hypnotic computer interface. Though the term hypnotic is coined very interestingly out of the phenomena of hypnosis. So there is a kid, what we observed before we coined the name. So that kid was very notorious in nature, and whenever that kid goes to different parties and events, he used to break plates, glasses, etc., as he was very notorious. But after some time, we observed that that kid is not responding or behaving notoriously. So we asked his mother. The mother said this kid is undergone through hypnosis, and whenever I use my guttural sound, so that time he stops behaving notoriously. So from this perspective, we put the name hypnosis. The main idea is to use the guttural sound to interact with the computer. And we successfully designed this HipCI, and we tried to interact with the computer through various commands and triggers like these for various operations or tasks. So for activating, for heart rate monitoring, for weather checking, for playing music. So there are different commands, as you can see here in the list. And all these guttural sounds actually helps to interact with such system. So now the question is, can we also measure the effective responses of the user after using this interface? The answer is yes. So we found the experience of the user is very good in terms of secrecy and privacy. So as guttural sound, meaning of guttural sound is only known by the user, not by others. So they are using those guttural sounds very secretly to interacting with computers. And they are very satisfied. In another study, we tried to analyze the sentiment of various e-commerce websites, and we take inspirations from the other study, which was conducted on Twitter sentiment analysis using NLP. Now, NLP full form is natural language processing. So through NLP, it is now possible to map various negative and positive emotion related keywords, and also the intensity or frequency of the keyword can also be mapped and presented like this way, and which is actually helping us to understand how users are experiencing various interfaces. So if we get negative responses more than the positive responses, so that means there are bad user experience and there is a chance of improvements of such design. So user experience perspective is very important for any kind of affective interfaces. Sometimes we use effective techniques to make interfaces pleasurable. Sometimes we go for different application of AI to understand the effective responses. But for both the cases, we are actually talking about the experience. So these are the important factors which are helping us to build good user experiences for AI-based effective interfaces. For example, accuracy. So AI enables system more accurate, behaving more accurately. So whether it is a voice command or facial recognition or some other way of interaction. So AI algorithms and data science enables you to have such responses, quick processing, quick responses, quick interactions. So accuracy, if accuracy is good, obviously user will feel satisfied using such interface. Ease of use is another factor. So if it is easy to use or easy to interact with the system, obviously people will be satisfied, user will be satisfied. System should be more efficient. User should use the system efficiently. So there should be less annoyance to use various user interface, as we tried in case of the MUCI. So people are less annoyed to use the interface quickly and secretly. They can use such interface. Privacy is another concern. So many voice user interfaces are not providing privacy. So HIPCI is providing privacy. So in this context, HIPCI is more better in terms of privacy parameter. Accessibility. So whether effective systems or effective responses are also important for people with different abilities. So differently able people like color blind or the completely blind people or deaf and dumb, whether they are going to able to use the effective interfaces or not, how is the experience, all these things are important. And aesthetic and pleasure of effective interfaces, definitely the design principle, the good quality media, all these things will help to make user interfaces more aesthetic and pleasurable. Empathy, as I discussed earlier, it's possible to create empathy through different effective interfaces. But the other way around, people might feel empathetic towards a particular system, and satisfaction is the ultimate say. If users are satisfied, then definitely there is a chances of more acceptance of effective technologies and effective interfaces. So now let me talk about the future scopes, a few research possibilities. So for example, sound localization is one of the important case of perception and emotion. So can we design some interface for this defense personnel or military to detect, to locate various sounds in the warfield so that they avoid fear of attacking by enemies? So if you look at the Navarasha, so we also worked on the muscle computer interfaces. So as I said earlier, Navarasha can also be expressed. Navarasha are nothing but effective expression of emotions through various gestures. So muscle computer interface generally uses muscle signals to interact with computers. So can we detect various gestures which are associated with various emotions and build some interface for dance gesture recognition and Navarasha recognition? In fact, we can also apply MUCI robotics for more responsive and effective responses from robot. So pupil size is one of the parameter for detection of affect. Can we also build some interface where we can detect the pupil size and use it for different purposes? Like again, can we use pupil size for communication of effective messages secretly? So what is the status of affective status of mind can be detected by the interface and send it to concerned person or cloud. So such interfaces can be made. So lighting mode and effective response. In this context, I should mention about the Philips Vibe emotion sensor. So they made a sensor which is applicable for lighting design purposes. So it detects your mood and change the type of lighting condition can be applied for generation of different mood at office or at home through lighting conditions. So sensors are important here. So sometimes we use biometric sensors like GSR and all to detect our mood. Sometimes we have some other means of detection. So more HIPCI might be required to avoid annoyance, maybe annoyance of blind people. Blind people, if we are designing some assistive devices for blind people, for interaction purpose, we can implement the HIPCI so that blind people are not annoyed about conveying different interacting with the in the public place. So secret communication with HIPCI is also possible. So again, the Western Navarasha, we can also detect various bodily gestures and use it for effective design. We can design pets with various emotional expressions. So more robotics can be applied, AI can be applied. So with this, I want to thank you all for your patience and giving your valuable times to listening to me. Thank you. If you have any question, I would love to address those.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Chowdhury, for the very interesting and impressive lecture presentation and discussion. So from some case examples, this talk was really suitable for the times of digital transformation. And in my understanding, the purposes of this research would be making our communication more effective and interactive in future with predicting human affective responses through some sensory data, such as face recognition or voice recognition or something like that. And also would be opening up various scopes of affective computing. So we were able to get a lot of suggestions from Dr. Chowdhury's presentation. So now I'd like to give the opportunity for the questions to the audience. But first, we already get some questions. One is from Professor Rosemary Seva. how do you think can affective design improve online learning techniques such as those that are aimed to elicit student participations?
Yeah, that's very interesting in today's global context. So as a faculty, everybody probably suffering for online teaching and there are a few methods I tried with my student that I would love to share. First is the empathetic approach for teaching learning. That so some students are very depressed due to this lockdown and all. They are very unexpressive, and so sometimes we need to think from the student's perspective. What is their mental status? How do they react to some assignments or to some teaching learning material? So based on that, we can prepare our material. Sometimes I mean, maybe give easy assignment to learn a complex theme. When they are depressed, sometimes we use some gamification. So gamification is very interesting here. So I used to publish the leaderboard against each and every assignment. So as we follow both continuous evaluation and the cumulative or summative evaluation at the end of the course. So during my continuous evaluation, I give assignment and publish the result in a form of the leaderboard, where I use different ranking method and the reward points, etc. And this method actually help students to make them exciting about their assignment and what they do. So when they get reward, they feel happy and they motivated. And also the peer competition can be created through such method, I guess. So whenever I am publishing the leaderboard, all the students are saying these are the top 10 for particular assignment. At that time, they feel that they should also do something great to have their name in the leaderboard. So that kind of approach might excite student, I guess.
Okay, thank you. And we have two other questions. The next is from Dr. Nancy Black. Thank you for this interesting presentation. I thought GSR was unreliable. How does this data relate to other methods?
Yeah, so reliability of GSR, if we talk about, yeah, sometimes it don't work in a good manner, because one important concern is our skin surface dead cell layer. So if there is no contact or with the skin layer, actual skin layer, or if some hindrance in terms of this dead cell layer, so connectivity, JSR lose the connectivity, and sometimes it don't detect the signal properly. So signal detection issue is definitely there with GSR. But yeah, if we apply some gel over the screen, that might improve the conductivity of the skin, and at that time GSR can be used. We can get some reliable data out of that. But yeah, only biometric is not good. Any kind of biometric with some subjective assessment is better, always better. So we need to cross check always. So we should use some sort of questionnaire or some other means of signal detection technique to go for confirmation of certain type of emotional or affective responses. So GSR has some association with, EEG signal data. Again, obviously the subjective ratings, and also have a relationship with facial EMG kind of response.
Okay, thank you. And the third question is from Dr. Alexandria Tria. Good evening. With regards to the implementation of the expression-based interfaces, how will this affect people with low emotional intelligence having trouble understanding facial expressions?
Okay, so let me read the question again. So with regards to the implementation of expression-based interfaces, how will this affect people with low emotional intelligence? Yeah, this is an interesting question. So emotional intelligence is one of the important things. So through emotional intelligence, one can control their emotion, right? So in such cases, it would be really difficult to measure emotion through this special, image processing based interface or facial EMG, etc. It's very difficult. If I have control over my emotion, obviously I will not be so expressive in terms of facial expressions. Sometimes what we don't like, we try to ignore it due to our emotional intelligence, and that time we don't show it at our face, but yeah, inside our head we have that ignorance. Definitely it would be difficult, and we need to find out some new way or new method of emotion detection with the people have higher or lower level of emotional intelligence. This could be a good topic, obviously. We can consider it as a future direction, I guess.
Okay, thank you. So next question is from Dr. Bernardo. Maybe this is the last question. This would be the last question. And for AI in safety critical domain, for example, doctors using decision aid tools for medical diagnosis, do you think affective design can play a role to improve the confidence or trust towards the system?
Yeah, definitely. I would say yes. Affective design definitely has some advantage over the acceptance of the user interfaces. So if somebody is going for designing AI-based interface for medical diagnosis, and if we are using the affective design techniques, definitely we can ensure the acceptance. So if we look at the technology acceptance model, which is based on the affect, definitely, yes, that is possible to build the trust, and obviously we can improve the acceptance of such system.
Okay, so thank you very much. So it's time to close. So thank you very much, Dr. Chowdhury and
Thank you
Rose
too.
and so
Yeah.
Nancy and so I will return the microphone to Rose.
And yes, thank you very much for this very interesting session. Thank you very much to Professor Chowdhury and Professor Okura, Professor Torizuka for participating actively in this webinar of the Affective Design. So we hope to have another webinar like this again next year. And thank you very much on behalf of the organizing committee. Before we go, I think we need to have picture taking. What do you think? All right, so let me.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Let us have a picture taking. Just a minute. Now I remove pin. All right. So let me just, all right. Now let me request everyone to turn on their cameras and then we will take a picture. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, next. There are a lot of people, so please bear with me. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Smile. All right. Next. Give me your best smile. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation. See you again. Professor Nancy Black, thank you for coming and gracing this occasion. We hope to have more of this, and we will send the certificate of appreciation to Professor Chowdhury and Professor Akura from the International Ergonomics Association. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank
Bye.
you. Goodbye. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.